PBS Terra. When will the world run out of water?
Climate change is making rainfall and droughts more extreme and unpredictable, which means we need groundwater more than ever as a buffer to support us when rivers dry up and rain doesn't fall.
Because it's not dependent on the last season's rain.
We have been pumping groundwater for so long that there are now places that are starting to really feel it. Like the water scarcity is something that's really starting to get felt, and it's going to get worse.
It's effectively much more climate resilient.
I mean, like, at some point, we're going to get the price of desalination down. Because there's a lot of places that do invest into desalination. I mean, that's still a very, very expensive, energy-intensive process at this time.
But the thing about groundwater is that it's not a renewable resource in the same way that surface water is. It behaves more like oil. Once we pump it out, it's often gone for good. And now scientists warn that we're rapidly approaching a tipping point, something called peak water. The moment groundwater supply begins an irreversible decline, meaning that each year we'll have less of it available than the year before. And groundwater is foundational.
Like, there's a river there, right? So isn't this surface water that they're using? But if they're pumping groundwater,
To modern human life, it supplies nearly a third of the world's fresh water and over 40% of global irrigation.
Ooh. Agricultural suitability. So these are the regions that are suitable for agriculture in the world.
40% of
I want to get an earlier part. And so, if it's not one of these regions, you have to offset it with groundwater, right? Like, isn't the Amazon here? Isn't that all suitable for agriculture? I guess the Amazon makes it unsuitable for agriculture. But it's a lot less area than you'd actually think.
global irrigation. But now, all of these forces are on a collision course, worsening droughts, rising food demand, and shrinking aquifers. And a new study has modeled exactly when and where global peak water is expected to
I love charts.
water.
Percentage of scenarios with peak and decline in the 21st century. Greater than 95% chance. Look at that. California. A lot of the southwest of the US is going to have water issues.
Is expected to hit, and it's not good news for.
Whoa. Look, what's that country again? Is that one the Netherlands, or is that one the Netherlands? Let's figure that one out. No. I want Netherlands map. Give me a Google map. Belgium, that's right. So, something about Belgium is guaranteeing they'll have a problem with water. Look at the whole Middle East. That's a lot of water.
For some of the world's most important food-producing regions. In one country.
Are they? Like, I know Russia and Ukraine actually produce a lot of grain. And a big chunk of Russia, there's a
Good
chance.
news for some of the world's most important food-producing regions. In one country, it's gotten so severe, they're moving their entire capital city.
Oh, I remember hearing about that.
At first, pumping groundwater seemed kind of like a miracle. Clean, accessible water on demand with no visible consequences. In the United States, that water has fueled the growth of some of the country's most productive farming regions, including California's Central Valley, Arizona, and the High Plains. Regions with hot,
I mean, you saw California's water on the water chart, right?
sunny climates perfect for growing crops, but with nowhere near enough rainfall to support large-scale farming on their own. And similar stories have played out across the world, like in northern India and Pakistan, Mexico, Iran, and across the Middle East. Dry regions with fertile land and fast growth.
So, if this is what your farming looks like, you have a very big problem. Because if you're doing the farming circles, that's because they have like a water stand that sits up and then that goes around in a big circle, sprays water on everything. So it's easier to pump groundwater and water in a circle than in a square. And so this is all groundwater usage. All of the circles are groundwater usage.
With fertile land and fast-growing populations. Groundwater is one of our most precious resources, but it's also one of the least visible.
Surface water is the water we can see flowing in rivers and comes from the rain. Then part of this water infiltrates into the ground and is stored underneath in the porous rock and soil. And this forms then what is called an aquifer.
This filling or recharge process is so slow that much of the water stored in aquifers is truly ancient, sometimes tens of thousands of years old, which is why it's often called fossil water. That makes it essentially non-renewable on human timescales. But we haven't treated it that way. Instead of seeing groundwater as a finite resource, we've pumped it as if it were endless.
I mean, like, for the older generations of humans, it essentially was, right? They had no way to understand that this was a non-renewable resource. And so they built entire industries around it. And now they're having an issue because, like, it doesn't renew at the time scale you think it does. It takes much longer.
So where has that left us? Well, in California's Central Valley, water tables have dropped by hundreds of feet in some places. Thousands of wells have run dry, with entire communities losing access to water. And
Like this, that's the stuff that is really dangerous. Like, when you lose access to water, a lot of things become a lot harder really quickly. Like, you don't understand how important having a fresh water supply is until you don't have one. And all of a sudden things like desalination, which is incredibly expensive, become like your only options. And that's just like that the system is not designed to handle that.
losing access to water. And in some places, the land itself is sinking by up to 2 inches per month due to subsidence. In Arizona, enormous fissures have opened up across the landscape, in some cases over a mile long. Across the High Plains, some farmers have had to drill so deep to access water that some wells now cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you might think that as ground
And those are the people that are going to be getting the water, right? So you have a community running out of water. Meanwhile, the farmer, which is using that water productively to grow a crop, is able to afford the well that goes deeper to continue to access water which will continue to push it further out of reach of a standard community.
Groundwater stress increases, we'd
Like,
slow
it encourages the wrong behavior.
our extraction and begin managing it more sustainably, right? Right?
We're looking at data for 40 countries. These areas count
Okay, these are the ones he's looking at.
for 75% of groundwater withdrawals globally.
This was the most comprehensive study ever conducted of its kind. In total, they looked at data from 178,000 wells.
It didn't surprise us too much that groundwater levels are declining. What was really striking for us is that the rate of decline was accelerating in many places.
In other words, not only are aquifers shrinking, they're shrinking faster than ever before. So why aren't we managing this water more carefully? Well, part of the answer at least lies in climate change.
The groundwater itself is not too much affected by climate change. But the people adapt to climate change and use the groundwater, which they usually would have taken when rain was falling regularly.
So we find ourselves in a
So, climate change is affecting the precipitation and the amount of rainfall you get, which is leading people to more heavily depend on groundwater. And the groundwater reserves are shrinking.
catch-22. As droughts grow longer and more intense, we rely more and more on groundwater to fill the gap, which only speeds up depletion. But at the same time, we'll need that groundwater more than ever in the future, precisely because droughts are getting worse. Which raises the big question: how far are we from the tipping point when groundwater availability peaks and begins its indefinite decline?
Oh,
This is
It hasn't started
exactly what a
declining?
new study set out to understand on a global scale.
I imagine there are areas where it has already started to decline.
A team of researchers ran 900 simulations using one of the world's most advanced human Earth system models. These scenarios explored a wide range of possible futures, different climate trajectories, population growth, energy demands, and water policy. Well, in nearly all of the 900 scenarios, global groundwater extraction follows a clear peak and decline pattern, with the global peak projected around 2050, just a couple decades away. And many
That's a problem for later. You telling me it's going to be fine until 2050? Do you know how many problems and how many crises we're going to go through before then? Like, this sounds like a tomorrow issue.
of the places most likely to peak are among the most
Most likely, and then none of the places most likely to peak are Canada. Oh, okay. We'll watch it till the end, but not a Canadian issue.
important food producing regions on Earth, and will expose
Let me see that. Let me see that one again. Regions the peak. So not
the peak are among the most important
California. It's off the screen, but California is one of them. So a lot of the Middle East are the ones expected to peak first. I mean, they're not that big of them.
and will expose about half of the world's population to
Not
water
that much of a
stress.
production
These
region.
include critical farming regions in the western United States, Mexico, India, Pakistan, and China, as well as several other countries in the Middle East and Mediterranean. Now, to be clear, groundwater
And Belgium. You forgot little Belgium up there. I don't know what they're doing, but they're gonna have water problems.
doesn't peak because it disappears entirely. There's still a vast volume of water beneath our feet, but as aquifers are pumped, water tables fall, and that water becomes harder and more expensive to reach. Wells must go
Oh, so like they're saying there's enough water there, but the water that's close to the surface that can be easily accessible is going to get more difficult to reach. Like that's going to disappear. Then you got to drill further wells and that's just going to make water essentially more expensive.
Deeper,
in specific
energy use
regions.
rises and costs skyrocket. Eventually, many users hit a breaking point. Some adapt by switching crops or importing food. Others stop pumping altogether. And that's what scientists mean by peak water. The moment when extraction becomes too difficult, too costly, or too damaging to continue at the same pace. And in this way, groundwater mirrors the behavior of other depletable resources like oil and minerals.
Okay.
So if one of the most essential resources for growing food and sustaining life is already entering a phase of irreversible decline, what happens next? Well, for starters, food is likely to get more expensive as water
I mean, like, everything leads to food getting more expensive. I don't get it. How do we get cheaper food? Somebody tell me
becomes
that.
harder to access. These major farming regions may struggle to keep up.
Like, where's my lab grown meat? How far are we from lab grown meat? I mean, lab grown meat is going to need to consume probably sugars or carbohydrates grown in a field to even be produced, right? So even like what we need more is like vertical farming. I think I've seen, let's try and look for this on X. Vertical farming. Like, I've seen a couple, no. Here we go.
Worst nightmare. This $600 million megastructure is basically Peppa Pig's worst nightmare. What you're looking at are currently the largest and tallest single-building pig farms in the world. Located in China, these two massive towers cover a total floor area of about 8.6 million square feet, with the tallest building reaching up to 26 stories. If 100 pigs were eaten on Earth every year, about 60 of them would be eaten by people in China. Honestly, it's probably the first time anyone's heard of pigs living in high-rises and taking elevators. Traditional pig farming usually involves a lot of manual labor, messy conditions, and heavy pollution. But here, the entire operation has been fully automated. From feeding and health monitoring to waste removal and climate control, everything is handled by smart systems. The projected annual output? A staggering 1.2 million pigs.
Whoa. I mean, talk about taking factory farming to its extreme.
Never in their wildest dreams did pigs imagine they'd live in a luxury skyscraper. It's pretty
That didn't look like luxury conditions to me. I'm gonna be honest with you.
insane when you think about it.
Like, when you see what they do in the factory farming stuff for chicken, and now they're doing stuff like that for pigs too. Like, I remember when I was a kid, cows used to like roam a field, like free range. Is factory farming a big thing? I've seen a lot of stuff about factory farming in the US and China. Does Canada lean into factory farming? Slightly off topic, but let's continue.
Production. And this doesn't just affect local food security. It can ripple out to global markets, impacting international trade. And it's not just agriculture that's at risk. Wetlands and rivers that depend on groundwater can dry out, damaging ecosystems and wiping out habitat. And as water levels drop, contamination can spread.
What? Like, they've clearly designed this to handle quite the flow of water, and there's nothing. Okay, I need to update something. Water scarcity. Let me just update what I'm talking about. should only take a second. Yeah, completely different tone. I do have to update this one. Somebody looks at it and they come in and I'm not talking about something that I've stated here, they're liable to just leave. Hey, 14 followers on Kick. Stream Pro 08 followed an hour ago. That looks like a bot, but okay. Stream Pro 10. Oh no, Stream Pro 08 was the Stream Pro 08 was the one that messaged me on Discord. I wanted to contact on Discord for Stream Pro 10. Your names don't add up. Okay, we're all set up. Let's go back to it.
Water levels drop, contamination can spread, with pollutants like arsenic and salt concentrating or seeping in from surrounding layers.
Like that's what was it? The blowdown that they called it in AI centers. When water evaporates away, anything that's in the water concentrates, and something that is not a problem in a larger volume of water can become a large problem concentrated.
With pollutants like arsenic and salt concentrating or seeping in from surrounding layers. And then there's one final impact that's so severe, it's already caused one of the world's largest capital cities to plan its relocation. Subsidence. And we're just beginning to see its effects in cities all over the world.
As aquifers are depleted, the structural framework that supports the land begins to compact slowly.
Compaction happens because as the water is removed, the tiny spaces between soil and rock particles collapse inward, squeezing the ground tighter and tighter.
Land subsidence is often...
So this is just like you hollow the ground out essentially by removing the water. The ground falls down into the space you cleared. That makes sense.
One of the most clear physical indicator that a region has surpassed that tipping point. And this compaction can lead to a permanent loss of storage capacity.
Which means that even if groundwater level rises in the future, the aquifer will no longer be able to contain or store the same volume of water that it once did. In Leonard's study, he focused on the urban impacts of subsidence. Specifically, he analyzed 28 major...
Man, I like looking at the world at night like this. You can see the little centers and then the little roads. And you build little towns along the roads around your larger centers. Human society can be weird.
U.S. cities, all with populations over 600,000.
And what we found that in all of these cities, they have measurable subsidence from 1 millimeter per year on average to greater than 5 millimeter per year.
Of the 28, the fastest sinking cities were Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, New York, and Chicago.
But more significantly, in every single city, we found that there are areas that have rates greater than 5 millimeter per year.
In the cities Leonard analyzed, he found over 29,000 separate buildings that exist in high to very high risk zones. And these findings matter because when the ground sinks unevenly, it can damage roads, pipelines, railways, and even building foundations.
Yeah.
But subsidence is perhaps the biggest problem for coastal cities because it happens on top of sea level rise.
You have two major hazards that you have to respond to, and you have increase to the frequency of tidal flooding, storm surge, or even total inundation for particular cities.
In the United States, Leonard's study highlights several cities where this is already becoming a concern, including New York, Houston, and New Orleans. But globally, the most dramatic example is Jakarta, Indonesia's capital. Some parts of the city are sinking by up to 10 to 25 centimeters a year due to heavy groundwater use, soft soils, and rapid urban development. Today, over 40% of Jakarta sits below sea level, making it dangerously flood prone. The problem has gotten
I mean, being below sea level, like, that can't be a comfortable place to live.
so severe that the Indonesian government is now building an entirely new capital city. But as bad as all of this sounds, there's also reason for hope, which strangely might be hidden within part of the problem. Earlier, we discussed how climate change is making the hydrologic cycle more extreme, leading to more intense droughts and also more intense rainfall. Well, new research is revealing that those very extremes might help us recover if we're paying attention.
What we are finding was a bias in the replenishment of groundwater to heavy, often extreme rainfall.
While steady seasonal rain may no longer be as reliable, sporadic but more intense downpours could still offer excellent opportunities to recharge depleted aquifers, but only if we're ready to capture that water. That means identifying where the ground is most permeable, protecting open spaces, and building infrastructure designed to absorb water, not just divert it. One way or another, we're going to have to learn how to manage our groundwater more sustainably, because droughts are going to get worse in the coming decades, and this resource will only become more essential. So, does your community rely on groundwater or face frequent droughts? What changes, if any, have you seen in how people treat water? Let us know in the comments, and see you next time.
Interesting. I like that. I mean, one, groundwater is going to be an issue. We're likely going to see a drop in the global food supply at some point. But it doesn't look like it's a particular issue for Canada. So, other people's issues. That's not what I want. Not what I want. Here we go. Rating system. Let's have a look. What else do they do? Videos. We saw what AI data centers don't want you to see. I mean, relevant, but 21 minutes, I'm not going to get into that. The perfect storm hasn't happened yet, but it will. Ooh. Tornado Alley is moving, and that's a huge problem. Yes. You telling me tornadoes are moving? This is the most dangerous river in America. America made it the most toxic lake. Now we need what's inside. I like these. PBS Terra. 512 videos. They've been going for a long time. Rating system. I mean, it wasn't too big into what I liked. Like down here-ish. Okay, where were we in our look? Economics explained. I'd seen that. Visual economics. Is this where we were? I think we were somewhere in here. Why is economics explained on here twice? I enjoy economics explained. Let's have a look at this one. We'll go through a couple of comments.
Climate change is...
Let's see what people say. Love the golf courses in the middle of dry lands. they do have a problem with that. Like the southwest of the US, they have an issue with golf courses. What was it? I think they were also building like water parks and stuff. You should not be doing that in a water scarce region. Like that is going to end poorly. We're such a short-sighted species. I mean, like this being short-sighted is not always a negative. A lot of short-sighted things improve people's lives. But I agree. Like there does need to be more long-term thinking. So basically, we need to do something about the AI data centers. Specifically in the Southwest, yes. Like they should not be there. Data centers should be constructed in places with abundant, refreshable, with surface water. That should be one of the prerequisites to constructing data centers. From India, we had a well depletion scare at my grandparents' house. Turns out the pipes were corroded and leaking throughout. That's why water supply was less. But damn, it made me realize how much we as a species are taking so many natural resources for granted. Yep. Lived in Houston for 28 years. The subsidence plus flooding issues have been a problem for such a long time, and it's only going to get worse. I was there during Hurricane Harvey, and each new storm, even normal thunderstorms, does more and more damage to the city. Houston actually gets so much rain, but the city is so immensely covered in concrete that it's impossible for the ground to absorb it. Bad for flooding and bad for aquifer replenishment. For any young people interested in studying this topic, it's called hydrology, and it's most often found in the environmental and or civic engineering departments of universities. Based on how people treat climate change, I don't have much hope for this. Humanity is very bad at dealing with slow issues. Like, when there's a crisis, we're good. When it's slow decline, we're really bad. People have been saying for years that we need to put in conservation practices for drinking water. The crisis shouldn't be here right now in order for people to care. Being dismissive towards a problem just because it's not here yet speaks to the arrogance of our society. So now the problem is here. Yep. PBS Terra continues to provide excellent science-based reporting. Love it. Very nice. What should happen? Oh shit, we need to start reducing water usage. What actually happens? If I don't use all my water rights, it gets reduced. That is an incentive problem. Better pump as much as I can before it dries up even more. That is a local government incentive problem. Like, that can be fixed. Must be hard to work for PBS when you accept and acknowledge the problem in the world instead of ignoring it like the government. Would be nice if we didn't waste 5 billion meter cube of water to cool data centers that power AI. Wildly out of touch. Like it wasn't near that.